A very warm welcome to the program. Thank you for joining us on this edition of K24 Inside Business, the last word in business. My name is Sarah Adam. Later in the hour, we'll have a discussion that will focus on budget-making process and how you can be able to participate in this. That will be later in the hour. But for now, let's take a look at what is making headlines in the world of business. First cruise ship has docked at the port of Mombasa. Companies will start paying new taxes at the start of financial year every July 1st. And the value of Kenya's coffee jumped 7% in this week's trading. Now to our top story. The value of Kenya's coffee jumped 7% in this week's trading, helped by high demand of specialty varieties. A market report by the Nairobi Coffee Exchange indicates that a 50-kilo bag of average fetched 20,900, up from 19,500 last week. The local prices rallied despite low value for the commodity at the New York Exchange, which normally informs the pricing for Kenya's produce. Prices this week were boosted by high-quality beans and increased demand for specialty coffee at the auction. There was enough stocks of high-quality beans from farmers following the onset of harvesting in central Kenya. Still on matters coffee now, a coffee mini auction to test and buy coffee from East Africa member states has commenced in Mombasa. The ESC Coffee Business Forum, organized jointly with the African Fine Coffee Conference, seeks to provide support to small and medium-sized enterprises across the region to improve access to the EU markets. Linda Koskei brings us that report.
Key themes to be addressed in the 18th African Fine Coffee Conference and Exhibition in Mombasa include the removal of coffee trade barriers with a spotlight on World Trade Organization, trade facilitation agreement, innovative mechanism to facilitate access to credit, buyer and investor priorities globally, and how regional growers and traders can capitalize on the new opportunities.
Together with the State Department of Cooperatives, we are going to put a lot of emphasis on governance in the cooperatives, including training, auditing, and streamlining all the operations so that they don't eat into the coffee farmers. So there's a lot of effort going in that direction, and this comes from the report of the task force, which had looked at the issues of governance in the coffee subsector.
Meanwhile, the Agriculture Principal Secretary Hamadi Boga said the government has announced plans to revive the Ailing Coffee Research Institute as it seeks to enhance research in the sector with the view of bolstering coffee production in the country. And on his part, a president of the Colombian Coffee Federation, Juan Ordaz, observed that the weakest link in the coffee value chain is the farmer who is relied upon by coffee production. Therefore, there is need to empower the SMEs.
In the last 14 weeks, coffee went from under $1. It made a spike to $1.38, $1.40, and now it went down again to under $1. How can a farmer, how can a producer make a living, understand the market, sell his or her coffee in a way that responds to all these fluctuations in the market?
This week's ESC Coffee Business Forum will further drill down on issues such as access to finance, meeting quality standards, and marketing and branding that will help these SMEs move up the value chain, as well as to increase their competitiveness through highlighting the potential for greater inter-regional and across-border trade, such as the East African Union market. Linda Koskei, K24 Business.
Now, 5 permanent secretaries from the ESC partner states are converging in Kisumu for a special stakeholders forum ahead of the launch of the 20 years of existence. Joining us to discuss this and more concerning the ESC and also the regional integration and what impact it will have on the economy is our reporter Baraka Karama, who is in Kisumu. Good afternoon, Baraka. And what is the latest concerning the economic integration and what will Kisumu County gain from this particular forum? Over to you.
Sir, 5 permanent secretaries from the East African partner states, so that is Kenya, Rwanda, Burundi, Uganda, and Tanzania, are currently held up in a closed-door meeting to deliberate on, among other issues, the regional integration. Kenya, is one of the member states of the EAC, and of course, the PS. The new PS for East African community, Dr. K24, is now joining us maybe to give us more brief about the milestone of the East African community as they celebrate 20 years of existence. Remember, this is one of the major areas that the EAC, of course, is focusing on, bearing the fact that we have the one border stop in Busia, and of course other areas in Sirare, in Sibania, along Migori County. Just allow me to engage the PS, the new PS for East African Community, Dr. K24. Welcome to the... Just welcome. Okay, kindly I'll start by asking you the milestone as the EAC celebrates 20 years. Of course, we have quite a number of milestones. Of course, there are also challenges facing the EAC partner states. What are the key issues that you're trying to look into?
Indeed, this has been progressive. This has been progressive over the last 20 years, as you have mentioned, and it continually aspires to achieve not only gains for Kenya, but for the entire East African community, consisting of 6 states in total. Some of the aspirations which hinge the entire EAC together include, the promotion of social transformation for the entire East African community, as well as environmental transformation and economic transformation. And this includes, the ability to open up trade opportunities, expand value chains into our respective countries, create an interdependency which is hugely strengthened and will promote those aspirations of social, economic and environmental.
How do you intend to achieve that?
Several milestones to date have been achieved with respect to our ongoing work on non-trade barriers and tariff barriers. The ability for us to open up access for people to travel in the EAC community, for professionals to increasingly have access to opportunity of work and practice, the ability for us to promote the one border stops and encourage greater efficiency for trade and opportunities. But above this, of course, there's the extended opportunities with respect to finding ways in which we're able to ensure that young women and men are able to also study in East African states. Recently, we launched a scholarship program for 60 students. This enables students in the East African community to study in universities in different parts and different states.
In terms of trade, do you think 20 years, as the EAC celebrates 20 years, do you think there's been an increase in trade within the 5 partner states?
Not only has there been an increase in trade, which has promoted our manufacturing base to access 170 million people within East Africa and the potential, but the growing possibilities of being more interdependent and enhancing foreign direct investment, as well as realizing global value chains into the community, will further expand that. Trade is one part of the success, but of course the service industry is yet another part, where we hope to ensure that artisans, craftsmen, master craftsmen, technicians and technologists also have access to these markets. After all, the resolve of the EAC is to ensure that we promote a people-centered development, and this is why the transformations and the activities that we undertake are all about ensuring that people are able to access greater levels of markets, but at the same time ensure that there's a common standard across the member states to enhance levels of productivity, innovation and efficiency. There's also the aspect of protection and the aspiration of protecting the East African community from radicalization, from security threats, from the ability for us to protect our natural resources. And finally, there's the very important aspiration that we galvanize as the East African states to promote a greater engagement on global affairs, both environmental, social and economic. This all adds to the gains of the entire community, and in particular ensuring that this becomes highly people-centered and promotes the transformation and the possibilities of greater opportunity for every citizen within the East African community.
Okay, of course, there are quite a number of challenges. How do you plan to tackle those challenges facing the 5 EAC partner states?
Efforts are being made to promote greater interdependency. This indeed promotes collaboration, a collective ownership, and most importantly, the ability for us to engage efficiently and in a way in which promotes a value proposition. Efforts are being made to promote greater professionalization in the way we engage and the way we collaborate. Efforts are being made to find ways in which we promote greater integrity with systems and structures and standards as a foundation. And finally, we are as inclusive as possible to ensure that we meet the common man and woman. We imagine, a farmer in the remotest part of this country having a sense that what he's producing, what he or she is producing, has access to the entire East African community. And it's this awareness and involvement, as well as the ability for us to be inclusive to the aspirations of the common man and woman, which gives the EAC the basis for its development.
Well, that was the Permanent Secretary in the state of East African Community, Dr. K24, of course, giving us a brief about the purpose of this particular forum. Like I mentioned, the 5 permanent secretaries from the larger East African region are currently held up in a closed-door meeting, trying to deliberate among other issues of the regional integration. Remember, this particular region, Kisumu to be precise, is one of the areas that, of course, the East African community is looking into. Just recently, we saw the rehabilitation of the Kisumu Inland Port that is currently waiting to be officially commissioned. And of course, the East African partner states are supposed to benefit in the rehabilitation of that particular port. So that's it. We'll be getting more details from other permanent secretaries from Uganda, Tanzania, and of course other areas like Burundi, just to try and give us the brief. Back to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Baraka Karama, for that update. We'll be giving you a comprehensive update concerning that from Kisumu. Now, moving on, the state has set aside 250 million for completion of all stalled projects at the Kenya Industrial Training Institute in Nakuru before the next financial year. Trade, Industry and Cooperative Cabinet Administrative Secretary Lawrence Karanja says plans are underway to convert the institution into a parastatal. A draft memorandum document has already been forwarded to Cabinet for approval. Linda Koskei with more details.
All stalled projects at the Nakuru Kenya Industrial Training Institute, KITI, will be completed before the next financial year. During an assessment exercise at the facility, Trade, Industry and Cooperatives Cabinet Administrative Secretary Lawrence Karanja affirmed that all resources meant for the stalled projects are not diverted.
And the government has committed to pay, to inject a sum of Kenya shillings 250 million into this institution to finish the stalled projects. That is the money which has been budgeted and set aside this financial year.
Last year, a parliamentary committee established that the abandoned buildings at KITI, which is the only government department under the Ministry of Industrialization and Enterprise Development, offering training, requires about 360 million shillings for its completion. A further 100 million shillings will be required for the construction of new structures.
Looking at where we are and where we are going, it is institutions like this which will provide both the labor and also the investors who will be participating, which will take our country to the next level.
Karanja said more staff will be employed to address the acute shortage of manpower at the institution and that the facility will be equipped with modern training equipment once stalled projects are completed.
Young men and women who are finishing, who are being trained here, where they can access funding from the government, from Uwezo, MSEA, and Stawisha programs, which are programs under the Ministry of Trade, Industrialization and Trade.
Plans to convert the institution into a parastatal are also on course after a draft memorandum document was forwarded to the cabinet for approval. Linda Koskei, K24, Inside Business.
Thank you very much, Linda Koskei, for that report. Now, the first cruise ship has docked at the port of Mombasa. Traders are happy with this, knowing that their businesses will be propelled by this particular boost. Joining us to speak about this and more on this particular cruise ship is Fred Kai from Mombasa. Over to you, Fred.
Shukran sana Sara Adam ukiwa studioni, na tunakuja moja kwa moja kutoka maeneo haya ya port ambapo ni muda si mrefu sana tumeweza kusubiria ama kuweza kuwasili kwa meli ya kigeni ya Polo ambao kwa hii leo basi ni mara ya kwanza kuona kwamba meli hii inaweza kuwasili katika bandari ya Mombasa, na kwa hivi sasa tunaweza kujiunga tu na wafanyabiashara wa eneo hili waweze kutueleza tufika wanaouza vinyago. Je, wanahisi vipi kuona kwamba kunaweza kuwasili kwa meli hizi, na pengine kwao kunaweza kuimarisha biashara yao ama ni vipi? Pengine tuweze kuanza tu na chairman, tuanze tu na majina yako, waitwa nani, na tuambie tu meli hizi zina faida gani kwenu?
Asante sana. Mimi kwa majina naitwa John Omo Bonyo. Mimi ndio mwenyekiti wa hii Curious Open Market hapa Kilindeni. Kuja kwa meli hizi hapa port kuna manufaa kubwa sana kwa sisi wafanyabiashara wa kuuza vinyago kwa uchumi wetu wa Kenya. Na mimi ningeendelea tu kuomba serikali yetu ya Kenya iendelee sana kufanya kampeni vile building imeendelea hivi, building imejengwa hapa kwa manufaa kwa minajili ya utalii. Sasa tuna matumaini ya kwamba itafutia utalii mwingi, na nilikuwa nauliza serikali yetu ya Kenya, hasa kama rais wetu wa Kenya anapenda hii kasi ya utalii sana, na tourism minister Bwana Balala wafanye marketing hizi meli za kampuni kubwa kubwa kama hizi siendelee kuja hapa, na sikiendelea kuja sitainua sisi biashara yetu, sitainua uchumi wetu wa taifa la Kenya, na tutafurahia zaidi.
Shukrani sana. Na tuweze kupata uko na yapi ya kusema kuhusu swala zima hili la kiutalii?
Kiutalii mimi ningependa kusema tuendelee na kupata meli nyingi kwa mwezi, takriban kama meli kama 15 au 20, ndio tuendelee na kujijenga. Maana bila meli hatuwezi kujijenga, hatuwezi kupata mapesa. Kwa hivyo naomba serikali endelee na kutuangalia, endelee na kutuletea meli nyingi katika ufuoni wetu wa Mombasa.
Shukrani sana. Na vile vile tukiweza kupata kuongea tu na mgeni hapa. How are you, madam?
Very well, thank you.
Where are you from?
UK.
You can just look at the camera here. How do you feel when you have just come to Kenya?
This is the second time I've been to Kenya. I came 40 years ago. Long time ago.
So today you are going where?
We're going into town.
Then back to
then back to the ship.
How does it feel for you to be knowing that it's the second time in Kenya? How does it feel?
Well, I'll tell you when I come back, because at the moment it's just I've only seen this bit. When I come back, I'll tell you.
We'll be giving you a comprehensive update on that particular story also in our 9 p.m. bulletin. Now, moving on, as we had promised today, the discussion will be based on budget process making. Now, a tax lobby group has asked Kenyans to actively participate in the budget making process amid implementations which reduce the tax burden. Many businesses, especially when keeping in mind that businesses have been asked to pay presumptive tax, and how particularly this will have the impact it will have on the economy and on the businesses. Joining us to discuss this is Irene Otieno, who is the National Coordinator at National Taxpayers Association. Good afternoon.
Afternoon to you.
And thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
And we've seen presumptive tax and all these taxes that the Kenya Revenue Authority is coming up with. And businesses have really complained about these particular taxes, saying that it's going to weigh so much down on them and they will not be able to make as much returns as they were doing before. And also the economy has been slowing down to normal, just the overall economy. So what do you think Kenya Revenue Authority can do to ensure that it can also widen its tax base and have a sort of a 50-50 balance?
Thanks for that question. Indeed, you've said there have been different taxes that we've seen recently. KRA has been pushing forth presumptive tax, turnover tax. So these are some of the most recent taxes and adding to already taxes that exist on Kenyans. And the rationale which KRA provides is that we must expand the tax base, being that only few are already being are net in the tax bracket, particularly in the formal employment. And we know that formal employment is just a small part. But the problem there, so first, just to mention that the expansion of the tax base is a crucial conversation that we must have as a country. But the other question is, what is the implication of this on the businesses? Remembering that we said that the projection according to the budget policy statement is that the economy must grow at a certain rate. But would the impact of these taxes then reduce the projections of economic growth, and what would the impact of that be? Because as the economy grows, then you have more that you can tax. So what does that mean even for the revenue projection that KRA has been having? I think it's a conversation that KRA must look critically. How do we balance having more taxes, which for me is a bit short term, saying that we must add taxes to bring in more revenue. But our position is that you can have a middle ground in terms of taxes, but then spurs economic growth that you can then be able to tax and still generate the same tax that you're projecting.
All right, and this presumptive tax, it's based on small, medium enterprises. And yesterday you had a forum where you were discussing the budget process making. And how important is it to have even people like the small, medium enterprises being part of this budget process making to ensure that even when it comes to allocation of funds, the allocation of funds in different sectors can be well thought out and can also help in terms of even future development of the country, and also ensure that the normal mwananchi are not really suppressed by this.
Interesting question, because yesterday we did have a launch of a strategic plan that would be looking at how do we engage with taxpayers from 2019 to 2023. Three critical projects was one, which I think is crucial to conversation you're talking about, is tax justice. So how does government raise revenue? If you're raising revenue, is it in an equitable manner that looks at different capabilities of your people? When you look at the way you raise revenue, looking at the people in informal versus the people in the informal sector, looking at women versus men, looking at people with disabilities and the likes. So when you try to raise revenue, it must be looked at along gender lenses. You must look at it looking at our roles in society, women. So the conversation we want, a critical aspect of how we want to engage moving forward is collaborate with the Kenya Revenue Authority. That raising tax has deeper implication, and let us look at this more in depth. The second part of it is how do you then redistribute what you have brought in as tax? And that's where we want the SMEs to come in, because SMEs rely more on public services. So if you're starting a business, what is the state of the road? And a poor road, what does it mean to the bottom line of your business? If you're in the food industry, the lack of water as a public service, what is the impact of that on your bottom line? So if we still see a gap in terms of how the SMEs come into this conversation. The bigger taxpayers have very strong lobby groups, such as Association of Manufacturers, the KEPSA. So for us, we want to work, so to speak, with the SMEs together with the individual small taxpayers to ensure that our bargaining and influence power goes a bit higher. So that is what we are looking at within this strategic period. And further also is how do we build and strengthen public services. So we critically want to look at strengthening of public services, and that we intend to engage through research. So how would we research in a way that even the KRA and policy institutions can be able to look at this research and then influence the type of taxes that they bring on board? And
how are you planning to bring the SMEs on board and just these small businesses on board to ensure that you can be one big lobby group that can ensure they can be able to fight for the common mwananchi?
We've really agonized around these issues, how you bring the SMEs together. So we've tried to partner with already existing platforms. So the Chamber of Commerce at county, because we know that they have the county chambers. So how do we engage with them? And when we're engaging with them, we are sharing issues like the audit reports for each of the county. So a money that was supposed to go, say, to markets in that county, and how that was misappropriated or not used as effectively. How would they as SMEs engage on that issue to ensure that money that is meant for markets, money that is meant for drainage, that would assist their work, goes forward? So the initial plan is working with already existing platforms like the chambers, the chapters of the chamber. We are working with the trade departments at county. So how do we participate through the trade departments at county? We know that we already have the gender departments at county, which brings together women groups, youth groups. So those are the groupings that we want to leverage on at county and ensure that these ones participate more in the budget process.
All right, and speaking of counties, the Controller of Budget has instructed 47 counties to provide records for the Controller of the Council of Governors. We've seen a bit of tug of war between this. What is your take concerning this?
It's with a lot of dismay that I actually looked at the papers and saw the Council of Governors pointing out and saying that they think that the Controller of Budget is overstepping their mandate by asking about the records of the employees that they have at county. And we disagree strongly with the Council of Governors because once there's been the call for pesa mashinani from the Council of Governors, so they want more money. So they want more money to the counties but with limited accountability. And I'm very happy that the Office of the Controller of Budget, the new doctor in that department, has come out very strongly. Because that has been our concern, reading and even from the Auditor General's report, that we have a lot of ghost workers. The wage bill as a country is going very high. And we already mentioned that the wage bill of the country is high, but it only covers 13.6% of the population. So if a lot of the money we raise as tax goes to cushion 13.6% of the population, what then remains for development for the 87? So our call is that the COG must be sober about this. We do not think it's a difficult requirement that the auditor, that the Control of Budget is requesting from them. So otherwise it becomes then morally wrong for Council of Governors to ask for more money while they're not looking at the issues of wage bill. And this is a perfect start to actually audit. We've had audits of each county saying they have started audits of their payroll, but this is something that pushes towards that. So why are they pushing against this? So that obviously would be a bad application of public funds.
All right. Do you think there are challenges when it comes to transparency? That's why Council of Governors, they are very reluctant to giving out this particular information?
Definitely, because first, each county should have a human resource plan. So within your human resource plan, you would be able to know who are my employees who are in the integrated payroll system. How many casuals do I need? So at the point that you're pushing back to give this, then it's a matter of corruption, it's a matter of lack of transparency. And we insist that the counties must come to the table with clean hands. You cannot be hiding things below the table and then demand that constitutional institutions stay off your turf. Because remember that the Office of the Control of Budget is a constitutional institution that was put in place in the 2010 Constitution. It was not there previously. So by virtue of bringing it on board and safeguarding it not on legislation but at the level of the Constitution was obviously because we are fully aware of the mischief from both levels. I wouldn't want to really squarely talk about just the county because the wage bill issue is an issue of both levels, and both levels have squarely also been brought into misappropriation of these funds.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We've been speaking to Irene Otieno, who is the coordinator at NTA. Now it's time to take a look at how the shilling is performing against other major currencies and also how the shares are performing at the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Now the top gainers and losers for the day. Now we have top gainers. Express has a price share of 5 shillings and 82 cents, and the percentage change is at 9.81%. Then we have Kenya Airways, which has a price share of 2 shillings and 44 cents, and the percentage change is at 5.17%. Then we have Britam, which has a price share of 8 shillings and 90 cents, and the percentage change is at 4.46%. Those are the top gainers for the day, and the top losers we have Everready, which has a price share of 1 shillings and 01 cents, and the percentage change is at negative 8.18%. Then we have Uchumi, which has a price share of 25 cents, and the percentage change is at negative 7.41%. And we have Sasini, which has a price share of 16 shillings and 05 cents, and the percentage change is at negative 6.69%. Those are the top gainers and losers at the Nairobi Securities Exchange. And now we want to see how the shilling is performing against other major currencies. Now the US dollar is buying at 100 shillings and 59 cents and selling at 100 shillings and 79 cents. And then the sterling pound is buying at 130 and 42 cents and selling at 130 and 70 cents. Then we have the euro, which is buying at 109 and 69 cents and selling at 109 and 94 cents. And then we have the rand, which is buying at 6 shillings and 80 cents and selling at 6 shillings and 82 cents. And we have Tanzanian shilling, which is buying at 22 shillings and 86 cents and selling at 23 shillings and 01 cents. And lastly, we have the Ugandan shilling, which is buying at 36 shillings and 33 cents and selling at 36 shillings and 50 cents. And that is how our Forex report for the day is looking like. And that is how we wrap up Inside Business, the last word in business. My name is Sarah Adam. Up next is Newscut.